Well, hey everyone. Yesterday I was late and today I'm early, but welcome to this morning's live. I'm on day 25 of daily quilting chats. I'm Susan Smith, and today I'm coming to you from the road. I'm on Whidbey Island, babysitting a couple of little grandnieces, actually 4 little grandnieces, so they're keeping me hopping. But it's still quiet this morning. So, today I wanted to chat a bit about quilt labels. So I'm going to wait for a few more people to get on and greet a few of you, but just so you know what topic is upcoming and you can pull your thoughts together, because I'd love to hear from you about what you think about labeling quilts or not. We've got lots of comments already. This is great. Melanie, good morning. Debbie, I'm good at labeling quilts that I gift, but slacking when it comes to my own. I should put a date and name on them. Janice, good morning. Molly, on the fence. Haven't loved the way that square or rectangle labels have turned out. Going to try a triangle set into the binding. Yep, that's a good option. Janice, I like the corner ones too. Crochet Mama. Molly, love the idea of using corner, but I always seem to forget when I'm putting on my binding. And do you all feel like me when you're putting on your binding? There are 5 corners, at least, for sure. Sherry, Robin. Debbie, what kind of washing instructions do you give people? That ties in with my label, actually. Sherry, Donna, keeping it short and sweet is my problem. I use embroidery module, but what other methods are? Sherry, my friend stitches her name and year on the binding. Oh, that's a good idea. A very subtle way of identifying her work on charity quilts. That's actually a really great idea, Sherry. I don't know how to work my embroidery portion of my machine that well, but I could learn, couldn't I? Marion, in response to a previous episode, I just ordered magnetic bars. Will the magnetic bars hold if I leave the leaders rolled on the bar? I don't know for sure the answer to that because I've never done it that way, but I'm guessing you run the risk of them falling off and hitting your toe. So I would be very careful the first time you do it. You know, different bars might have a little bit different strength too. So try it out, but be wary the first couple of times. Louise, Lissa, Sandra, Linda, Diane. Diana, I use labels and embroider them. Great. Susan, I label in every quilt. Good for you. Lissa does triangle labels. Angie has never labeled a quilt. Quiltsy Linda, Tiffany's Quilting Life, Wendy, Barbara, Erin, sitting outside enjoying the sun. I am sitting outside, but it's a brisk ocean morning today, let me tell you. Okay. Melanie, found my chat box. Yay! That's so good. Okay. Let me tell you my thoughts about labels. I'm terrible at it too. I tend to like to do things quickly, right? And especially when I'm nearing the end, I want to get her done. That's why I do machine binding for the most part. So to me, thinking of doing a fussy label means I typically don't do any label. Here's my easiest of solutions that I found, and some of you might like this one. I went to a little shop on Etsy and I ordered a few pre-made labels that I can fold in half and sew into the seam of the binding when I affix it. And I put Stitched by Susan on the front of the label and on the back of the label, and it's not very big. It's like a clothing label, but it's only about a 1/2 inch wide. And on the back, I put wash warm, dry low. Super simple washing instructions, but it covers the basics. So that goes on every quilt of my own that I finish. I tuck that label in. There is the very odd quilt that I do more information, and I know that I should, because some of the quilts I make, I know are going to endure for some amount of time, and they should have more information than that. So hats off to all of you that label every quilt, and that, you know, it doesn't have to be flowery, but at least to put who made it and when and possibly where or what the occasion was. I know those are basics, and I'm terrible about doing it. So this is a vulnerable morning because I knew I didn't have a lot of advice to offer on this topic. I love the idea of the lady, I think it was one of the Susans that said, or maybe Sherry, of actually embroidering name and date into the binding fabric so that it shows up on the binding. Like you said, that is a subtle way. I don't either love the giant rectangular or something labels that tell an epistle on the back of the quilt necessarily. So, but that's personal preference, right? Another thought though, I have a number of clients who are very good about labeling, and one in particular that I'm thinking of. She does a lot of quilts for her local NICU, which is the baby intensive care, neonatal intensive care. And so she wants to kind of give a little information and just particularly bless those families. So she always does put a thoughtful label on them. And sometimes she has taken to putting the label on before it comes to me for quilting so that it gets quilted in. So that also helps it to be a little more subtle. It doesn't sort of stick up from the back of the quilt as the ones that are just hand stitched around the perimeter can do. So I've done that a few times. I've had people do it with embroidery. I've had people do it with indelible pens. I actually had one quilter who she was making a quilt for, I think it was a fireman, paramedic, something like that, and she was putting a patch as the label. And that was a great idea to put that on the backing of the quilt, but I could not quilt through it. I broke needles trying. So that was not a good idea, but you know, live and learn, right? Okay, let me scroll back. I've got lots of ideas coming in. R.L. Burke is saying, I stitched the date and my name in my free motion quilting. Another great idea. Fairly subtle, but it will endure, right? It will last with the quilt. That's a great idea. Elaine, I prefer embroidery in the binding. There's another one on that one. Melanie, I have major issues making labels. What are your issues? Just not doing it? That's my major issue. I don't enjoy doing it at all. And so I tend to leave that part off. The triangular ones are a great idea. If you've not seen that before, the easiest way to find some good ideas, honestly, is to search on Pinterest. And frankly, you can find a ton of labeling ideas just by searching for quilt labels on Pinterest and seeing what other people are doing. But the triangle involves just taking a square of fabric and pressing it from corner to corner. So you get a triangle shape with one folded edge and the other two raw edges. And then you print, I suppose you could embroider too. In some way you do your labeling information on there, and then those raw edges get tucked right into the binding of the quilt as you sew it on. So, and then you can hand stitch down that folded edge if it's very long at all, because it's kind of a toe catcher. But it is a pretty simple way, and you don't have to put stabilizer on the back of it or anything like that then to put it in place. Carlene, good morning. Tiffany's Quilting Life. I label big quilts, but small ones, table runners, wall hangings, etc., don't label them. Yeah. Teresa, good morning. Selena, I love to embroider my labels. We need to become good friends, Selena. I love the look of embroidered labels, honestly, but I just don't get it done. Jennifer, I always intend to put on a label, but frequently I forget. Sharon, good morning. Julie, I recently bought printed labels with name and date. So there's another great idea. You can actually buy fabric that is, maybe this is not what you're talking about, but this is what springs to my mind. You can buy yardage that is printed labels, and they'll often be, coordinated with a fabric line or in a particular style, and you can find different ones, right? So you can find your style. So it'll have something pretty on the label and places to write your name and date and so forth. So that does take some of the work out of it. Did you know that you can print on fabric in an inkjet printer? That I have done. I do not know how durable it is because it wasn't a quilt I was keeping, so I don't know how it stood up. But basically you put freezer paper on the back of fabric and cut it to, letter size paper, and you can feed it through an inkjet printer and set the ink with a hot dry iron, and you can print anything you want on a label in that way. So I have done that. I've done that for some show quilts that I didn't think would be washed a lot, so that's a solution. Daphne, I label with my name, date, and on the back put batting fabric and washing and drying instructions. That's very thorough. Good for you. A. Durham, never used a label. Maybe I should. You do think about it. I acquire quilts here and there that don't have any information on them, right? And it is kind of sad. This quilt gets handed down and maybe changes families, most likely changes families, and nobody knows its story anymore. And so if there is a name and a date, it is at least traceable and someone knows who did that hard work. Jan, Melanie, she's saying she's getting buffering when I started to speak. I'm not sure. It seems good at this end, but I just don't know. I'm sorry. Janet, good morning. Mona, my grandson loves to long arm quilt and he will put something freehand on the front of the quilt. It's quilted in. I should take up his trick. That's a super great idea. I like that. Sue, labels are important. Some of our quilts are here long after we're gone. Every quilt I do gets a label. Name of quilt, my name, and date completed. Good for you, Sue. Really, truly, I'm proud of you, and I'll try and do better. Laura, Joanne in Saskatchewan. Melanie, phone keeps buffering. I'm truly sorry. I can't fix it, though. Tiffany, I either embroider into the backing fabric or make embroidered corner tags. Yep, great idea. So probably, I'm guessing you do those triangular types, so something you can tuck into the binding in one corner. It's kind of unobtrusive too. Carrie, sometimes I just sign it with the year with a fabric marker. Yep, certainly that is an option. I wonder how permanent those markers are, but I guess if we're writing on the label, it's exactly the same thing, isn't it? So maybe I was hesitating with no need, because maybe those fabric markers are super permanent when they're ironed on there. I hope so. Marie Suzanne, good afternoon from Bath, UK. Loving the mini tutorials. I don't know if they're a tutorial. Today it's a little bit like a confessional, isn't it? Melanie, making the labels, personal message, where to put it, all of the process. Want to make them, but end up buying pre-made. And honestly, why not? Like, if you don't love making them, there's no shame in buying pre-made. I don't think. I would do it too. Well, I do. Sorry about the noise. There's a jet going overhead. It's crazy loud. Melanie, I have a Cricut and trying to make it that way, but have to learn it first. Another great idea. I've not seen that done, but Cricuts seem to be able to do almost anything. Donna, I try to add a label with a quilt name, who made, and year completed. Of course, I made and quilted the quilt, yes. Yeah, and maybe I should add that in there in case you wonder. I do not label at all quilts that I'm quilting for clients. That's entirely up to them to do. We're just talking quilts that you or I make from start to finish here. Barbara, I do labels all different ways, right in the quilting, right on the back, embroider a label, but all have my custom satin ribbon tag. Another great idea, to have some feature that is yours and yours alone and is recognizable. I quite like that. Lisa, I liken the label to adding a signature to art photography. You are exactly right, and I think it probably is that important. Shame on us for not doing it. Shame on me. Tiffany, yep, they are triangles at the back bottom corner with the binding, yep. I think that's the easiest way to attach a label that I've seen, but you do need a good indelible fabric marker, or you need to embroider it on so that it will be permanent. Great reading all the ideas. Fusible ink, Melanie says. Good, good, good. Joanne, I make a label using extra fabric from the quilt, sometimes with an extra block. That too is a good idea and is very attractive looking. If you're going to have a label that's substantial and eye-catching, why not make it super pretty? And I have seen that too, using like extra, an orphan block, or at least orphan pieces and fabric from the front of the quilt, and it looks really pretty. Lisa is assuring us no shame. I agree. That's not what this is about. This is just about an exchange of ideas. Marie Suzanne has a great tip. I make my label first before quilting the quilt, otherwise I never get around to it. That's actually a really good tip, to just kind of put it in there before you load it on the long arm, or at some point in the sequence, so you just get it done and not leave it till last. Nancy, I just got a quilt for $20 from the Salvation Army. It has pretty applique and looks vintage. When I opened it, the label says it was made by someone named Pottery Barn. I love that. So cute. Okay, you guys, I don't know if you can tell I'm shivering here. It is flippin' cold. I did not realize that when I sat down on here. I had to put warmer clothes on. Anyway, it is cold. A few more things before I go. First off, if you enjoy these chats, please do give me a thumbs up. Please feel free to share these episodes with your friends. This is day 25, so there's just about a week left of morning chats. I welcome your topics if you came in yesterday, and I've added them to the roster. So, who knows? Maybe I will keep going a little longer. This is airing in October, so I am heading to the Houston Festival of Quilts next weekend. Yahoo! I've never been there before, so that will be really fun. I'm looking forward to that. So I'll be on the road again for those few days at the end of October. And lastly, the enrollment for my Freehand Quilting Masterclass is currently open. I see some of your names that you have already enrolled, and I'm so happy to see you here and part of my quilting community. But that is open for the duration of this week. I think it's actually Wednesday night that it closes. Like I said, I'm babysitting 4 little girls, so my head is a little bit out of that game. But there is a link in the description box below this, and you can always go to my website, stitchedbysusan.com, for any info on that. There's a learning tab, and the masterclass is there, so you can read the syllabus. It's got what's in every module and what it's all about and why it might be of interest to you. That's all there. Feel free to email me if you do have further questions about it and want to chat a little more before committing. I'm happy to talk with you. info@stitchedbysusan.com. Well, that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow, so you enjoy your day, whatever you're doing, and I'll go get playing with my little girls. I'll see you tomorrow.